This is the Hidden VTuber channel. I'm Hidden, and we're going to play some Vanguard Zero. Now, for those of you who don't know, Cardfight Vanguard is a trading card game where you take on the role of a vanguard and lead your chosen clan to victory. As the game progresses, you power up by riding, or borrowing the form of more powerful units, allowing you to call allied rearguards to help you attack and defend. You win by attacking your opponent and having them sustain 6 damage. Today we're going to be using a Royal Paladin deck in ranked play to take a look at some of the basics of the game. I'll note beforehand that the deck I'm using isn't really complete because you get cards through gacha and I've been free to play so far, but we should be able to showcase the basic rules. The easiest way to learn is by seeing, so we're going to skip ahead right into a game. So the opponent is using the Kagero clan, and we are going first. At the start of the game, we get to mulligan cards in our hand, and we ideally want to be able to ride smoothly up to grade 3. We can, and Blaster Blade, this grade 2, is a fantastic card to see, but I don't quite want this many copies of it in my opening hand. Send 1 back. We get another grade 2 back, which is pretty good, and at the start of each turn the player draws and can ride up to the next grade. So we'll ride and bring out our first Vanguard, our grade 0, call that to the back and use its effect, trading a trigger unit in our deck for a grade 0 from outside of our deck, and this becomes part of its own little combo if I do a similar thing next turn. We will end our turn here because the player who goes first can't attack, and on the second player's very first turn in the game they can draw 2 cards to make up for being behind in riding. So the opponent rides up, they will bring out their first Vanguard, which will later let them search out a card from their deck. They choose not to attack, so the purpose behind that is to avoid giving us the counterblast to pay the cost for this little combo, which our first Vanguard starts off. That's pretty smart on their part, but it's a risk because if we can ride the card we want, like this, we nullify the advantage they would have gained from that, and that is pretty big. We'll call out 1 more front row unit and go to battle. So we swing in. When a Vanguard is hit, check the top card of the deck. If it's a trigger, then you gain the effect, as they just did, so a plus 5,000 bonus and draw. In addition to that, when a Vanguard is hit regardless, the Vanguard gains 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So we are now facing down a 16,000 power Vanguard, and we only have 13,000 power. So, when we attack, we check the top card of our deck for a trigger. If we get one, we get its effect and send it to the drop zone. We didn't, so our attack wasn't able to hit. So we are going to see what they're going to ride. They ride another grade 2, so it has 10k instead of the standard 9k. And they're going to use their first Vanguard now, counterblasting 1, so flipping a damage face down, and then it retires itself to search out a card from the deck. They searched out a Sentinel, a perfect card, which will allow them to discard it to block a single instance of fatal damage. They called down a rearguard and swung into our rearguard first. Grade 2's interceptors must be taken out before you can swing into the opposing Vanguard. So they did just that, and we're going to have to do the same on our next turn. So we're going to ride up into Alfred early. Alfred's effect lets us bring out Blaster Blade from our soul. So there's a reason we want it in the soul, to get the bonus from Alfred. And we will bring out another grade 2 to our front row to tighten up our defense. We'll move to battle, take out their Interceptor, and then move on to attacking their Vanguard. So 14 at their 10 hits. They hit a draw trigger, which makes it difficult for our Vanguard to hit. So we're swinging 14 into 20. A trigger will give us 5k, so we need 2. And as it happens, grade 3s drive check twice as opposed to once. It's unlikely we get 2 triggers. We got 1 trigger. Unfortunately, it doesn't do much for us. It would have allowed us to deal 2 damage had it actually hit. But we're going to have to go with this. This isn't a terrible thing. Had we actually given them the 2 damage, they would have had a different grade 3, not this, live, and that would have been pretty devastating for our front row. It would have been able to attack our front row repeatedly, so it takes out the rear guards and then can swing at the Vanguard with boosted power. Instead, their current Vanguard, Seal Dragon Blockade, nullifies our intercept abilities. So currently the opponent doesn't have to swing at our rear guards in order to hit our Vanguard, which is very powerful. Just being able to turn off a game mechanic for your opponent is pretty strong. About as strong as it sounds. So what they're going to do with their current field is they're going to swing in with their Vanguard first. They hit a heal trigger, so heal off 1 damage, and boost the power of one of their units. They get a second one, which will let them boost their power once more. They're probably going to put it on the same unit. Yep. Even if they had put it on their 9k rear guard, they wouldn't have been able to hit us after the damage shield. So what they're going to do is bring in their 9k rear guard as one of our rear guards, even though they no longer have intercept, just to get rid of it. And then that last attack is probably going to be headed at our Vanguard. And with that double heal trigger, the damage is now 0 to our 3, which is a pretty bad situation. We have nothing better to ride in, so we'll skip our ride. We can ride from a 3 to a 3 if we want to switch up what we're doing. We won't be doing that. And we'll activate this GAN slot, placing it back in deck to search out a Blaster Blade. That places the GAN slot, which has a trigger, back into deck. It has a heal trigger, which would be very good right now. And we're going to bring out this Blaster Blade, using its effect to take out one of their interceptors. This will hopefully give us a pretty good chance of hitting them twice. Although, again, if they hit damage trigger on their first damage, we might be locked out of that without a double trigger. Like that. These are some strong damage checks. I think they're 3 for 3 currently. We do hit a draw trigger. It's not enough power to boost us up to the 20k we need to hit, but we found a Sentinel, which is very valuable when our intercepts are currently turned off. I could have called down one of these 10k grade 3s and attacked in the opposite order, Vanguard first and then the rear guard, which with the 1 trigger would have given us the power we needed to hit. With our intercept turned off, that might have been the better play. In fact, it definitely would have been the better play. But we didn't do that. We are taking some big damage to the face, and we are going to lose one of our front row units, but we did get a heal trigger, which is nice. That keeps us in the game for a little longer. take out a rearguard. That's fine, we wanted that rearguard to be 10k anyway. We are going to re-ride into Bridget. It's a rare card, as opposed to a higher rarity card, such as double rare or triple rare, and it has an effect which lets it duplicate power from a trigger onto itself, which generally isn't considered too useful, but in this case, I think we're going to take it. Blaster Blade can't intercept anyway, so we're going to pull it back, put a 10k in its place, which can hit, and I think we'll replace the Blaster Blade with a Blaster Blade, just so that we can get the effect of the new one off to get rid of an Interceptor. Got an Interceptor, one of their grade 3 rearguards. It won't be intercepting, but any chance to lessen their offense is a good one. Probably won't help, given that their hand is huge, and we have a lot of damage to deal in order to get through. We didn't hit the trigger, that's unfortunate, so the attack didn't hit, but this attack will. And they hit another draw trigger on damage. This is getting quite strong for them on the damage checks. So they can potentially finish this turn. Yes, they will be going for a finish this turn. So the powerful grade 3 I mentioned before is Dragonic Overlord. Generally use it on the rearguard, and it's a heavy cost of Counterblast 3. But it gains power, and it restands when it hits a rearguard, which is almost always certainly happening. There's nothing in the game which currently stops that from happening, unlike the real game, where you're playing with the physical cards, and the guarding mechanics are slightly different. So they'll be swinging in with this 10k, we won't get a damage trigger, which is a bit rough for us. Their Vanguard column can hit, they hit no triggers, but they don't need it. That will force out the perfect guard from our hand, block the instance of fatal damage. But they have this one attack remaining, Cool Cut in, the final attack. We can survive if we get a heal trigger, which we do. That is pretty big. We're still in a very bad position. They have at least one perfect guard in their hand, which they searched out. And we don't have much of a front row. We have 3 attacks with which to deal 3 damage, but we can only get 2 of those attacks in, best, given that we have the perfect guard. Our triggers, we still have a critical trigger in deck, which could allow us to force the perfect guard early. It can't actually win us the game, because that perfect guard is there. We have 2 heals left, 1 draw. We do need some trigger luck to get through this. We're not going to prioritise swing at these grade 3s because we're not forced to, because they don't have intercept, and this nets us no triggers, so again the Vanguard attack doesn't hit, and our final attack can't hit the Vanguard either. We're going to hit this Overlord because we can, it's about the only useful thing we can hit. And this, I think, is game over for us. We have no more defense, we have 2 heal triggers, we could survive if we hit both of them. Isn't particularly likely. A specific 2 cards out of a 17 card deck probably isn't happening. So we get to see another cool final attack cut in, and yep, dead. So that is how a game of Vanguard works. Yes, fight us again sometime, as I actually just said. So we lost our first game, and we made a few misplays, but in the face of the triggers the opponent pulled, that was always going to be a very steep uphill battle. But now that we have seen the basics, we're going to get on the ranked grind in the next video with more gameplay commentary. The game has been out for about a month now, and the ranked seasons are bi-weekly. So, we're heading into the last spurt of the second season. If you'd like to keep up with the latest, please get subscribed and check out the social media linked in the description. And remember, I'll be seeing you next time.